Hi, I'm back. So I sent out a post on November 26th talking about how I was busy with Thanksgiving and exams and wasn't going to be able to get a video out that week. So I was going to get one out next week. Oops. Yeah, so exams ended up making me a lot busier than I thought I was going to be. And 1 week turned into 2 weeks. But hey, I moved. I'm in a new place. I also got a new haircut. My hair, it looks kind of weird right now because it's washed. It looks kind of strange. I even tried to spruce the room up a little bit. It's very empty. It's literally just a white wall. But I put some Pokemon cards. And I brought the guys. They're still here, so that's cool. Anyways, I apologize for the delay, but it feels good to be back and making YouTube videos. And I don't have anything else to distract me now, so we should be back on schedule. Assuming I don't get lazy. Alright, I'm not going to hold you at the intro for too long because I know I haven't produced any content in a bit and I know you're all foaming at the mouth for a new video. Mario Kart! We've all played it. It doesn't need any introduction. It's a great series. But which courses are the best on the roster? I'm going to be taking the 4 main cups that have been in every Mario Kart game and select the 4 best courses to appear in each respective cup over the years. That might not make any sense. It'll make sense in a second. Just also, I'm trying to reach 1,000 subs by the end of the year. I think I'm sitting at like 580, so I don't even know if it's humanly possible, but we're gonna give it a shot. So if you guys like the video, please consider subscribing and supporting the channel. It would mean a lot to me. All right, no, it's enough self-promo. On to the video. Thank you so much. First up is the Mushroom Cup, which is home to a lot of the more basic tracks within the series. I mean, it makes sense. It's supposed to be the intro cup that eases players into the game. However, there are still a few bangers that have stood above the rest of the tracks. Things like Peach Beach, Luigi's Mansion, Shy Guy Bazaar, to name a few. However, I've chosen the 4 tracks that I think stand out the most. The first track to make the top 4 is Baby Park. There is no other track like Baby Park in the entire Mario Kart series. While it looks really boring at first, I mean, it's literally just an oval. You put 7 laps on that oval and give yourself a flurry of items and you turn that track into a chaotic mess. Every race, you're constantly fighting for your lives as you try to get around the oval without getting hit by items or getting cut in front of by people with mushrooms who decide to jump the grass beds. And even though it's just an oval, the track feels different every single time because you're constantly having a new experience each time you play the track. You'll be pounding people with items and lapping them or getting absolutely destroyed. There's really no in between. With just the sheer variety of things that can happen and the absolute chaos, I feel like this track deserves a spot in the top 4. Mushroom Gorge is the next track, and I feel like this one could be a little controversial. Overall, it's a pretty bland track, not really offering much outside of the giant bouncing mushrooms. But for some reason, I've always held this track in high regard, and am excited every time I get to play it. If I had to put my finger on it, I think the thing that makes me like the track so much is the Mushroom Cave. I mean, you can enter in there in first and come out in last. You could totally change the tide of the entire race in a single spot. Outside of that, you have the one shortcut, and you have the little Goombas. I don't know. This one just speaks to me personally. The third track in the Mushroom God Cup is Toad's Factory. I am genuinely shocked that this track has not made a return since Mario Kart Wii. The layout of this track is phenomenal, with the factory setting, the giant crushers, the conveyor belt that switches directions when you drive on it, the giant bulldozers that are constantly moving back and forth, revealing speed boost platforms. It doesn't really have any shortcuts, unfortunately, but you don't really need that when it feels like the entire track is constantly shifting and changing in multiple different ways. I think the biggest thing, though, is the fact that they still haven't brought it back, even though I feel like it's a pretty unique track compared to the rest of the roster. So because Nintendo decides not to bring it back, I've decided to bring it back and give it a little bit of love that it deserves. Toad's Factory is our third track in the cup. The final track in the top 4 is Calamari Desert. I've never really been the biggest contributor when it comes to loving this course, but I feel like I would have been assassinated if I didn't include it in the top 4. I mean, this track has been a fan favorite for years, and with the recent remake, it's just gotten better. The best part about Calamari Desert in its original state was your ability to drive through the train tunnel and go out of bounds. But in Mario Kart 8, they took the train tunnel and made it part part of the course. That alone solidifies its spot in the top 4. Add in its great layout and the fact that every lap the course is switching up, and you have yourself a phenomenal course. And there we have the Mushroom God Cup. Overall, it wasn't too difficult for me to come up with the top 4 courses from this cup because most of them were really bland, boring circuit courses anyways. These ones just had a little bit more uniqueness to them and stood out above their counterparts. Next up, we have the Flower Cup, and it is a lot more stacked than the Mushroom Cup. Daisy Cruiser, Wario's Gold Mine, Toad Harbor, DK Summit, Music Park. I mean, it's just banger after banger. However, we can only choose 4, unfortunately. And for the first of those 4 tracks, I have Delfino Square. This one is probably going to be the most controversial one in the entire video. This is purely just a me pick. I mean, I've loved this track as long as I can remember. Nothing about it is really insane, but I do enjoy the shortcut between the buildings and the drawbridge with all the speed booster panels on it. Plus, I always remember this track being a little bit more difficult than the rest because of all the 90-degree angle turns you had to make. Or I was just terrible at video games as a kid and it really wasn't that hard. But I still, to this day, for some reason, absolutely adore this track and see it as one of my favorite tracks out of any course ever. And for that, I feel like I'm gonna put my personal bias in here and throw that into the top 4. Honestly, it's an opinion video and it's my opinion. If you don't like it, fair. But I'm gonna put it here and I'm gonna put my foot down. Next up, we have Shy Guy Falls, which is one of my favorite tracks in all of Mario Kart. The concept of driving up and back down a waterfall sounds like so much fun. They then took that concept and executed it to perfection. And it helps that the visuals of this track are absolutely stunning. Shy Guys have always been my favorite Mario enemy, not for any reason in particular, I just think they look cool. So having them littered all around the course doing things like mining and pumping and swinging around are gonna give bonus points to the track. Not to mention that the Shy Guys get to jam out the whole race, which is awesome, by the way. They are phenomenal singers. Step aside, Beyonce. Coconut Mall is undoubtedly another fan favorite within the Mario Kart series. The music, the layout, everything about this course is amazing. Now, I do have to say that Nintendo is lucky that I'm taking only the best version of each track into consideration, because the way that they butchered this track in Mario Kart 8 is criminal to me. To most, it's probably not a big deal, but when they changed things like not having the cars move or putting the arrows on the escalator, it just didn't sit right with me. Now, to their credit, they did fix the cars and they move now. And this might just be a personal thing, but I think that putting the arrows on the escalator kind of ruins it a little bit. I always enjoyed having the chaotic mess of trying to figure out which escalator was going up and which one was going down. I found the challenge to be fun rather than an annoyance most of the time. But that might just be me. Either way, it's still a great track and deserves to be in the top 4. And speaking of fan favorite tracks, the number 4 course is Waluigi Pinball. I mean, come on. You knew it was gonna be in here somewhere. I mean, it's the best track in Mario Kart. This track is perfect. There are literally 0 complaints that I can give to it. The design of the track is colorful and vibrant. The concept of driving through a pinball machine is awesome. Having the pinballs chase you throughout the course adds a sense of danger. And the music, oh, the music! This is just a 10 out of 10 track, no question. It deserves to be in the top 4, and honestly is the best track in all of Mario Kart as a whole. And while I could sit here and glaze Waluigi Pinball for the next like 5 hours, we do have some other cups that I gotta get to. And with that, we have the Godflower Cup. It was a lot harder to come up with the top 4 in this one, and I kind of put my personal bias up above some other objectively better tracks. But overall, you could swap in a lot of tracks from this cup and still have a great list. That's how good this cup is. The Star Cup is easily the most stacked cup out of the 4. I mean, this cup is loaded with great tracks. Ribbon Road, Tick-Tock Clock, Mount Wario, Electrodome, Sunshine Airport, and the list keeps going. However, only 4 can make it into the God Cup. And the first course to make the cut is DK Mountain. DK Mountain has always been one of my favorite tracks, and with its new remake, it has gotten upgraded to a whole new level. Every section of this track, from the cannon shooting you to the top of the mountain, to driving through the forest with boulders chasing you, to the bridge at the end that's really skinny and narrow, they each feel different from each other and make the course very entertaining. I used to hate this track as a kid because I could not for the life of me dodge the boulders shoulders every time I played. But now as a mediocre gamer, it's not that bad, and it is a phenomenal track. The second track in the cup is Airship Fortress. This is another Toad's Factory situation where I really wish they would have remade it for Mario Kart 8, but instead they just decided to toss it into the void of lost Mario Kart tracks. This was my go-to track to play whenever I would pop Mario Kart 7 into my 3DS. The track just feels so unique when compared to the rest of the roster, even though it is kind of like a Daisy's Cruiser reskin, but we won't talk about that. Besides, this track is 10 times better because it has Monty Mole in there, and that makes me happy. Or, I don't know if Monty Mole and the wrench-throwing mole are the same thing, but I'm gonna say they are. They look the same. They're close enough. It's no question, this track deserves a spot on the list. For the third spot in the cup, I went with Maple Treeway. This is yet again another fan favorite course, and it is definitely deserved. Maple Treeway has easily the best atmosphere out of any other track. Driving through a giant tree in the beautiful autumn setting, it is definitely one of the most memorable courses. I do have one thing that I dislike, and I think it's something that most people don't really care about. It's the fact that they removed the net at the end of the course. Personally, I thought it was really unique and creative and kind of fun compared to just flying down. I always love to go down the net and just keep doing trick after trick after trick. But net aside, this is still an amazing track. And for the final track in the cup, we have Koopa Cape. If we want to talk about unique tracks, Koopa Cape is the one to talk about. You drive through a rushing river which gives you a speed boost as you go. Then you drop down a waterfall into a pipe that leads you to an underwater tube fitted with electrical spinny things. I really don't know what to call these. It's electrical wheels. They're not really wheels. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. I love everything about this course. That was until Nintendo decided to strip everything out of the underwater tube and just completely deprive the track of its personality. I mean, what were they thinking? They took everything great about the track and just got rid of it. Then they just replaced it and made it just normal with no lasers, no nothing, just speed boosts. Thankfully, I'm only counting the best iteration, and the Wii version is 10 times better than the remake, so it still gets to place in the cup. That's all for the Star Cup. This was definitely the hardest cup to put together. There are just so many great tracks that choosing which ones to put in and leave out was super difficult. You could easily swap in a bunch of other tracks and still have a complete banger of a cup. And finally, we reach the fourth and final cup, the Special Cup. There are a lot of good tracks in this cup, but there really isn't a whole lot of uniqueness because most of the tracks are either versions of Rainbow Road or Bowser's Castle. Actually, now that I think about it, I think there's only one track in my God Cup that isn't a version of one of those two tracks. Speaking of, the first track in our God Cup is Yoshi Valley. This track has the weirdest layout I have ever seen in a racing game, but I am all here for it. I mean, it's literally just one big choose your own adventure game. For the most part, it doesn't really matter what path you choose to go on because all of them end up being pretty equal in time. But because of just how many paths there are, you could basically do a different lap every single time. It can be a lot of fun going down one path and then just completely going down a different path the next time. And it even has that giant spinning egg, which I think secretly hates me because every time I try to drive past it, it's in the perfect position to just screw me. But putting me and the giant egg's beef to the side, this is a great and super unique track that I feel like just needed to be put in here. For the next track in the cup, I have selected Wii Bowser Castle. This is, in my opinion, the best Bowser's Castle in the whole lineup. Driving through the castle, jumping past the Ring of Fire, and tricking off of the lava plumes are cool and all, but the part that makes the track stand out above the rest is the Mecha Bowser room. You and every other racer are charging down this path just trying to survive each other, and the whole time there's a giant Bowser hurling fireballs at you. And the only way you're able to dodge them is to get to the side of the track and trick over a gap. It's honestly one of the most memorable parts of a track in all of the Mario Kart franchise. That section alone makes me want to play the track over and over and over again and easily gives it away into the God Cup. The third track in the cup is N64 Rainbow Road. We go from the best Bowser's Castle in Mario Kart to the best remake in Mario Kart. The youngest sibling treatment they gave this course is insane. They took everything that made the original version bad and completely fixed it. Track too long? Boom! Continuous track the whole way through. Too bland and boring? Boom! One of the best looking tracks in all of Mario Kart history. This remake is gorgeous, and honestly, it looks better than most of of the newer and the DLC tracks. Nintendo had no business going this hard on the remake, but boy am I glad they did, because this is now one of my favorite tracks of all time. And finally, for the last track of the cup and the video, we have Wii Rainbow Road. This track is the only thing stopping me from naming N64 Rainbow Road as the best Rainbow Road of all time. I think most of my love for this track comes from just the sheer nostalgia I get when I play it, because Mario Kart Wii was the first Mario Kart game and one of the first video games I ever played. But at the same time, I think that Wii Rainbow Road is the perfect example of what a Rainbow Road should be. It's not too hard where you're constantly falling off, but it's also not too easy that it feels like any other course in the game. Plus, the track layout is my favorite out of any of the Rainbow Roads in the Mario Kart series. It also offers plenty of shortcuts and alternative routes if you have the skill or a mushroom. I think that this track has so much going for it that it just has to be in the cup. And there you have it. Those are what I think to be the 4 best tracks for each of the 4 main cups from the Mario Kart franchise. Overall, I think my list is going to be kind of controversial because I do tend to pick a lot of the more out there tracks to what people might normally choose. So if you guys would change anything about my track selections, make sure to let me know down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Hopefully we're able to hit my 1,000 sub goal by the end of the year. And with that, I have nothing to do today, so I'm probably just gonna relax for now or find something. Probably gonna eat. That's probably what I'm gonna eat.